So you take over CEO in January 2014, and welcome to the job because you're immediately thrust into this situation where you have to do a major product recall because of faulty ignition switch. Tell me how this tested your leadership.
Well, it was quite the challenge because again, most of the leadership team was in new positions. I'll never forget, I actually got the phone call as I was driving home. I was pulling into the garage and I actually sat in the car, was driving an Escalade, sat in the Escalade, understood what was happening. And again, we were always guided like, we've got to do the right thing. The thing that a lot of people don't understand is when you have something like that happens, you don't know everything. And so we started to meet every single day to understand and started our own internal investigation. We've, learned that the root issue that was causing the problem was actually engineering that had been done over a decade before in the late 90s. We were the team that was going to deal with it. I think one of the things that most people didn't know, we were the ones who actually figured it out and self-reported that we knew what the problem was, that then, started the whole ignition switch case. But we just methodically did the right things. We were guided by three principles. We were going to be transparent. We were going to do everything we could to protect the customer. And we were going to do everything in our power to make sure nothing like this ever happened again. And that's what guided us. We spoke a lot to the employees, helping them understand because it became so public. Testifying in front of Congress is something I probably would recommend not having to do, especially when you have a problem. But I also knew when I was there, I was speaking to our employees and I wanted them to be proud of me is the way I represented the company. And so we just kept working through it. We made lasting change. One of the things I always said is, I always ask our team, I say, I'll talk to all employees. I'll say, when is the best time to solve a problem? And they kind of look at me and I'm like, the minute you have one. Because problems do not get smaller. And so we now are champion, and to this day, even though I would say almost 40% of our technical talent wasn't here when that happened, once a year, we have a safety week. And we start every meeting with the safety protocols and a safety message. But once a year, we dedicate a whole week and we remind people, for those employees that weren't even here when the ignition switch recall happened in 2014, what it was and why we do what we do and how we all have to be committed to making sure we solve problems early and we never let something like that happen again. So it was difficult. Don't get me wrong. I thank my team because I got through it because we worked together as a team. And it was also just kind of something that's foundational for me right now. We're going to do the right thing even when it's hard. And I think a lot of times when people have tough situations, I think they've got a decision to make. You don't. You have to do the right thing.
It was interesting because when that happened, I was at Yum Brands and I brought my team together and we had crisis happen a lot of times around the world. And we really studied what you did. And one of the things that we were most impressed with was that you took the blame for a lot of things that you didn't directly contribute to. Obviously, the technology happened a decade before that caused the problem. What's your view on a leader stepping up and taking responsibility like you did, even for things that maybe you had nothing to do with?
Well, I think at the time I was the CEO. It stops with me. But I think it was so important to tell all our employees, hey, things are going to happen outside of your control. If you're in the chair, you own them. You've got to fix them. We can't make excuses. We always have to be focused on the customer and doing the right thing for the customer. And it was my responsibility to fix what we needed to do. And that's why I'm so proud of the fact that we not only changed engineering processes, validation processes, our whole quality process on how we look at things, but we also, I think, drove culture change because it's easy to say, this is what I believe in, or this is what we want the values of the company to be when everything's going great. It's a lot harder but you have the opportunity in a crisis to demonstrate to your employees, we really mean it. And I think that was foundational for the entire company. They knew we meant it and we were right there with them.
So you really drove safety and made that a prominent driver of your culture. And as you look at your business today, what are you trying to put your stamp on now to make the culture even better?
Well, one is continuing the strong safety message. And that's why I said we start every meeting. We've expanded. It's not just product safety, but workplace safety and just psychological safety in the workplace of making sure people are in an environment where they can do their best work. So I think we've grown it, and we're now working on how far can we bring it back into the process to make sure we don't ever have a problem. And so we keep working backward from that. I would think that's something important. I think another thing I'm trying to drive into the company is the speed at which we need to move. This industry and every industry, technology is changing so quickly, and yesterday's winner aren't guaranteed that they'll be tomorrow's winners. So speed matters. I feel confident we have the right strategy, but it's can we execute it faster and better than our competition? Because that's what it's going to take in this fast-paced world we live in now. So safety is a foundation, culture of our company is a foundation, but I think speed of how we innovate to serve the customer better than others is something we're really focused on right now.
Another thing that I know you're very focused on, or I read about, is just you love building an organization of truth tellers. I mean, you're looking for the truth no matter what it is, which is great. Do you have a fun story, or maybe it's not so fun story of where you got that kind of truth and it really helped the company?
Well, what we found, actually, one of our values is seek truth. Because in a company this big, what we found, and it was our president, Mark Royce, and I, we would found many times people would come in with a proposal, but if it was only a part of the organization, it wasn't an enterprise-wide solution. And so, and then it would be like, we felt like we were somewhat playing whack-a-mole, but okay, well, yeah, I can solve that problem, but it creates this problem over here, and there's one over here and one over here. And so seek truth was really our message to the entire company, from our individual contributors all the way to our vice presidents, of give us enterprise solutions. Don't just give us something that optimizes your area. But it was that frustration of decisions coming to us that weren't the whole, but I would say they weren't the whole truth, because they didn't look at it from an enterprise perspective. And that's something we still say today is, let's get to the truth, not what someone wants it to be. What is it? How can you demonstrate it with information, data and information, so we can make the very best decision quickly?